What is something you passionately hate and can complain about in length? Friends, family who can never get anywhere on time. It's understandable if it's once or twice. But not every time. I've complained to the point there is no point anymore. I just don't associate myself with them anymore. All of the plot holes in the Jurassic Park World franchise. Seriously. That series should have ended at Lost World. The movie ends with a T-Rex rampaging through San Diego and eating at least one person alive. There's no way if that happened in real life that the park would have allowed it to be built. Toxic communities. I play a lot of different tabletop RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons, and I especially love the World of Darkness setting. I specifically love the setting because the community are nutjobs. The setting contains multiple games and each player base is its own brand of whackjob. The vampire players are edgy, mental illness-ridden pessimists. The werewolf players are the very definition of toxic masculinity, and one friend of mine defends having a girl's character be made into a slave by her family because it made sense to the setting. The mage players are the most pretentious people ever. The game is about philosophy and they love to be all elitist because they play the thinking man's game. The changeling players are all those freakly furries and cosplayers that no one wants to talk to. The wraith players play a game about being a hopeless being of despair because they feel like hopeless beings of despair. And all of them are convinced their game is objectively better than all the other games. Everything about the American health insurance industry. It's beyond me how anybody can see value in these blood-sucking middlemen, whose entire purpose is to turn a profit by denying people medical care when they need it. I could go into detail about the many ways I have suffered at the hands of them. But it's wasted effort. Everybody has a story. Whether it's being surprise charged the equivalent of a car down payment for talking to a doctor for 5 minutes, or being told a life-threatening condition isn't covered. We all have a story. Or know somebody that has one. I believe the vast network of lobbyists, executives, and government officials responsible for upholding this system are some of the most evil people on the planet. They perpetuate a cycle of soft eugenics, levied against our poor, sick, and disabled. Mostly people who had no choice. Who did nothing wrong but be born into the wrong place at the wrong time. The evil they commit is spread out because of the corporate veil and the lack of a central authority to point to. No one person can be blamed for the deaths they all collectively cause in the name of profit. You can't exclusively blame the bottom-level insurance adjusting grunt that denied Granny's claim appeal over the phone. You can't exclusively blame the pharmacy that charges absurd sums for medicine that's cheap everywhere else. You can't exclusively blame any congressman or president or lobbyist. Because they're all patting each other on the back in a giant, unbroken incestuous circle, which they're thrown out of if any one person dares to resist. Is it any wonder that of the 2 presidential candidates we can now choose from, neither of them offer any significant change in our health care system? This system is evil. It treats us more like breakfast cereal consumers than human beings. We aren't dealing with choosing Raisin Bran or Frosted Flakes. We're dealing with people's lives. These filthy pigs are directly playing market games with human life. The kicker, though? A sizable portion of our population has been convinced that this is a good system. You will reliably find that these people haven't yet had the bad fortune to need to deal with a complex medical issue, with the complex billing that goes along with it. And once they do, as I have personally witnessed in my own social circles many times, they invariably grow to hate the system as I do. As heartening as that is, it's extremely depressing that we have such a deficit of empathy in this country that it takes a near-death experience to change a mind on something so basic. This ensures that the system will harm as many people as possible before it's struck down. I hate health insurance companies so much. How broken so much popular modern software is. All right. Maybe broken is an overstatement. But I find it infuriating how many unfixed, ridiculous bugs or poor design I come across, and I've noticed it far more since entering IT. Let's take Windows as an example. Specifically the file search feature. It's awful. Absolutely abysmal. Whether indexing is enabled or not. There's a progress bar that in most cases will quickly get to about 95%. Then very slowly complete the vast majority of the search. Yet, Other applications designed by small teams or single dudes at home manage to complete such a search so quickly the complete results generate as you type. Windows search is deeper. But the common-sense solution would be to perform the instant search for file names and then the much slower search after displaying those results rather than make the user wait absolutely ages for something it can find instantly. Test it if you like. Try searching for DLL in Windows Explorer to list all .dll files. It won't actually complete for hours. While you wait for it, install everything and search the same thing. It should be near instant. Since learning this, I search for files constantly. I blame Microsoft entirely for file search not being a common part of people's PC use. It's often far more convenient than going into whatever folder. I've had so many issues caused by Windows Update. And I can't stand how Microsoft has renamed things either. The tool for emptying your recycle bin and deleting a bunch of other files has been renamed several times, resulting in not being able to find it for a minute or two while trying different terms. And often suggests other things despite the search term being much closer to the item wanted. And that's assuming you can even open the Start menu. Given the widespread bug where it just decides not to open anymore for a while. Then there's removed features. Literally taking away functionality from a PC. At some point they removed the ability to use it as a Bluetooth audio receiver, like a speaker, rather than audio source, so I had to buy a really third-party driver. And now they're re-adding the functionality. This is on an operating system that must be on literally billions of systems at this point. The quality shouldn't be so inconsistent, bad. As someone concerned with ending human trafficking, how common it is to see people say that human trafficking can be solved by legalizing prostitution. Countries that tried this have only seen increases in the number of people being trafficking, and it bothers me so much to have to constantly keep pointing this out. The expectation that people have to respond to your text or emails right away in order to be a good friend, partner, family member, etc. Like, sometimes I just want to leave my phone in another room and live in the moment. Sometimes I'm so engrossed in something that I don't want to be looking at my phone. Sometimes I just don't feel like talking. There's so much emphasis on being left on read or screened or whatever these days. Like someone doesn't actually care about you if they do these things. It's so much pressure. It's so much time spent glued to your phone. If you have something urgent you need to address, call someone and leave a message. But for the love of all things good, please understand that people need their own time and space, and aren't going to want to be in constant contact. The software on the corporate job sites that have you upload your resume and then ask you to fill in all of the job info on your resume. Utalio. There's a special place in for your company. If it had been around in Dante's time, it would have had a prominent mention in his Inferno. Inconsiderate drivers. And especially not using indicators. People who act like their secret family recipe can't be shared because it could compromise agents in the field. For sake, half the time the recipe is straight out of a cookbook or from the back of a package. An experienced chef could probably deconstruct the recipe. And when I ask for a recipe, it's because I want it as a base so I can make it better. Leadership. Specifically at my fire department. Leaders encourage work because eventually you just get to the point where you hate being there. I love what I do, but my line officers make me hate being around the FD at all. The lack of adequate sexual education in U.S. schools. If you don't teach kids about birth control, their bodies, consent, or the benefits and harms of, you can't then be all mad about abortions, rape culture, or addictions. It boggles my mind that people don't get that. Old men flirting with young girls at their jobs. Don't get me started. Commercial fishing. Where I'm at, commercial fishermen set up loop nets along the river bank to catch large catfish. I see those catfish as the only way to naturally help us fight the invasion of Asian carp. The river will be dead if the commercial fishermen overharvest. It won't take long for the Asian carp to outcompete every other species of fish. The commercial fishermen incentive are provided by the pay lakes, which pay for large catfish to be tagged and stocked into their ponds for lottery fishing. Phones are too goddamn big these days. They don't fit in my tiny woman hands and they don't fit in my tiny woman pockets. I want a goddamn phone and fits in one goddamn hand. I have an iPhone SE and I use a T9 keyboard so that I can text with one hand. It's amazing. Fantastic. It's a goddamn miracle. I hold my SOS Pixel 3 and my thumb can reach 20% of the screen. How stupid is that? I don't want to buy a goddamn ugly, inconvenient pop socket so I can hold my goddamn phone in one hand. That's insane. Does no one else see how insane that is? To have a phone that you need two hands to hold? What the? How are we allowing this to happen? Me Too is cool and all, but I am being discriminated against right now for my hand pocket size. It makes me so furious. Why are we not talking about this? Stop making phones bigger. Oh my. How hard is that? Jesus Christ. I just want to hold it in my hands. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.